This is TV BRICS Africa here in Luanda, participating in the ANGOTIC. And we have a pleasure with us here to have the VC of Botswana University. Good morning, Professor Norris.
Good morning. Good
Yes.
morning. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we are
Yes.
happy to have you here. We just need to hear your impressions of ANGOTIC, which is something new in Africa, something that is growing very fast, especially away from the so-called developed zone of Southern Africa.
Yeah.
What are your impressions of ANGOTIC so far?
I must say, without any hesitation, that it's really impressive. And I think this is what we need in the entire African continent.
Yes.
We must recognize that we cannot continue to be bystanders
Yeah.
in this economy, this global
Exactly.
economy.
Yes.
The reality is that economies are now powered by knowledge.
Exactly.
You talk of knowledge economies, knowledge societies. We cannot continue to be bystanders. And I think what is also important to note is that we have talent
Yes.
in Africa.
Yes.
Our young people are extremely talented.
Yes.
What has not been there is a nurturing environment for this talent to come out.
Yes.
And I think ANGOTIC seeks to do that,
Yeah.
and is doing it very well.
Thank you, Professor. But on this point, we tend to see when we speak of ICT development and the frameworks in Africa, we look at cable, putting the cable, getting access to those who are not in the digital space. But Angola has taken the entire ecosystem from the new space economy, artificial intelligence, SME platforms, ride-hailing platforms, and they're creating an ecosystem in a manner which is organic and leapfrogging, so to speak. What is your view on that?
I think you've captured it very well, particularly the very word ecosystem. And that is what is lacking, because we don't have functional ecosystems. And these ecosystems really start with partnerships, very close relationship between institutions of higher learning,
Yes.
industry,
Yes.
government at all levels,
Yes.
both national and local level,
Yes.
and communities.
Yes.
If you have this partnership,
Yes.
this is really the framework, the building blocks
Exactly.
for the ecosystem to thrive.
Exactly.
If you don't have those partnerships, you'll never have the ecosystem.
Exactly.
And now, what is of interest to me with what I see here is that the ecosystem is also building very, very intensely on the talent of young people,
Of young people. Yes.
because they are the biggest in terms of the proportion
Yes.
of young people in our society. So to build on young people, I think it's an incredible thing. Partnerships, which will form the ecosystem.
Yes.
And then the backbone being
Yes.
this talent that we see in our young people.
Yes, Professor speaks of PPP, the public-private partnership, but here it's got another angle also of managing or nurturing what we have come to call the African youth dividend, which might become an African youth curse if it's not nurtured.
Absolutely.
So what is your view on how Angola established this regulatory framework to able to infuse I use the word infuse because if it were in South Africa, you'll see people of a certain age
Yes.
participating here.
Yes.
But when we go around the ANGOTIC, it's mostly the youth and the SMEs generation.
Thank you very much. I actually want to learn even more myself. But this is the situation, and I think I like the fact that they realize that because you have these young people who form the larger proportion of the population,
Yes.
and these are educated young people.
Exactly. Techno-savvy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Who can innovate.
Yes.
Because it's also a question of innovation.
Exactly.
These are young people who can innovate. So how do you support them in ensuring that this talent is translated into economic growth?
Exactly.
This talent is translated into them starting startups and so forth. And we saw in one of the tents where it's just young people.
Exactly.
And I found startups there.
Exactly.
That's very, very important.
Yeah.
Now, in Botswana, if I may just give an example,
Yes.
there were many, many programs, big funding programs for young people
Exactly.
from various institutes,
Sectors,
government
yes.
sectors. But most of the startups were failing. Most
Yes.
of the businesses were failing.
Failing.
I think what we're not bringing or infusing
Yes.
into this innovation that they have
Yes.
is entrepreneurship and business skills.
Yes.
That must be intertwined.
Yes.
When you support the innovation,
Exactly.
you can be so talented, but if you don't have the business acumen
Yes.
or the entrepreneurial skills,
Yeah.
everything will be lost. You see, so I see that they are also infused because as I was walking in that tent yesterday,
Yes.
I also see that they also understand the business aspects
Aspect
of their innovations.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how, now that you've mentioned Botswana, I find some similarities with South Africa there. So what we should do, we should push more for business skills, but in, and marrying it or coupling it with innovation. But there is something I've seen here, that young users are not only end users.
Yeah.
They are actually the coders.
Yes.
They are actually the one that generates these systems
Yes.
that then in the long run become platforms.
Yes.
That in the long run become part and parcel, repeating the word,
Yes.
ecosystem.
Yes. Yes.
How are we going to manage that in our part of the world?
That's a difficult question, but it needs managing and needs
Yes.
to be managed very well.
Yes.
As the University of Botswana, if I may just give an example, one of
Yes.
the things that we wanted to set up, and if it wasn't limits in terms of funding, is to start what you call a software development hub.
Yes.
If I think about it, you have your phone, all these apps
Exactly.
that are there, these are people this is programming.
Exactly.
These young people here, even here in Angola,
Yes.
we have serious software developers,
Exactly.
programmers, and so forth.
Yes.
So the management thereof,
Yes.
it's a question that you're asking me. I don't have a direct answer to it,
Yes.
but we need to manage it well. That's fundamentally important. How do you manage this so that in the end you have a proper channeled package?
Yes.
Because in the end, we want these young people to drive the economy and to create employment opportunities for themselves as they start businesses.
Once we say in other aspects, thank you for mentioning that the tools are there, the knowledge is there, the savviness is there,
Yeah.
but it needs to be organized.
Yes.
But at the same time, won't we also say that the government regulatory framework also is another bottleneck?
Yes.
Because what I've discovered with ANGOTIC and what I've read and what I've seen, the interviews I've had with the local ministers, gives me an impression that there is a deliberate move towards an almost laissez-faire, deliberate move of letting the industry grow without any stringent regulation.
You know, that this is the conundrum that I think one would face.
Yes.
You don't want to be regulating too much.
Yes.
But at the same time, there has to be some regulation.
Some regulation.
There have to be some policies that will be guiding some of these things.
Yes.
But I think for me,
Yes.
the most important thing is having trust in these innovators. Why am I saying so?
Yes.
In Botswana, you find that a lot of systems that run whatever you run the processes in government, financial systems, everything.
Yes.
These are platforms that are bought from outside. If you think of the ERP systems and all these
SAP
things,
systems,
these are very, very expensive.
Yes.
Why have we not tried our young people and say, listen here, this is the platform that we want you to develop this, and give them an opportunity to develop this homegrown solutions.
Exactly.
We must have confidence in their abilities.
Yeah.
One thing that I've realized that sometimes we don't have confidence in our own people, in our own young people.
Yes.
Yes.
Homegrown solutions
Yeah.
for home problems.
Yes.
And you are mentioning something very critical here, saying that our developers and our engineers end up being resellers.
Yeah.
Because they have to buy ready-made.
Yes.
To sell here, which actually is not optimal for solving our problems.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that, Professor, and thank you very much for your time. Lastly, you are the VC of one of the biggest and most developed universities in Southern Africa. What do you have to say to the region, both the students and administrators?
The major thing that I would say is this: university or higher education institutions have gone through some evolution.
Exactly.
You have what you call first generation universities, second generation, third. We are now in fourth generation.
Fourth generation, yes.
We must go there. Yes. We must leapfrog to be fourth generation institutions that are involved in the whole innovation ecosystem, the whole value chain.
Yes.
From blue sky research, basic research, applied all the way to prototype, to product development, and engaging with industry for commercialization. That entire value chain, we must work in that space.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it.